Hello friends and welcome back to the Pressure to Passion podcast. I am your host, Miss D. May, and today we're going to be talking about nurturing self-compassion, and I am joined by another incredible guest. Today we are here with Miss Hailey Spring, and Hailey is a psychotherapist and is the driving force behind WithSelf Therapy and Wellness Centre. Welcome, Hailey. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me today. Today I want to, so my previous episodes we've been talking with people who have been through trauma, and today we're coming at it with a little bit of a different angle in terms of therapy and how therapy can help people going through trauma. But before we get into all the deep stuff,
okay,
right? I'm going to hit you with something. Name me your top 3 travel destinations on your bucket list.
Oh, do you know what? There's so many. Tokyo is definitely on my top.
Okay, Tokyo.
But Japan in general, because I want to go to Kyoto. I want to go around it.
Do the whole thing.
Yes. I do want to do like the whole Asia tour. You know, like
so maybe we just say Asia.
Yeah, the whole thing. The whole thing.
This is supposed to be quick fire.
And Zanzibar.
Zanzibar. Okay, nice.
I have not made it there yet.
I have not been to any of those destinations, so maybe if you're going, maybe we'll.
Yeah, I know who to come to.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do know who to come to. My other question is, I get this asked quite a lot actually, and ask for forgiveness. Sorry, beg for forgiveness or ask permission?
Ask permission?
All the
time? No.
Okay, depends on the situation.
It does depend on the situation.
Right.
If you're ready if I'm talking beg for forgiveness, you can ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know about begging, because you should have known about the consequences before
right? Exactly. Oh my days. Yeah. Okay. So that one's still, so that's an ask permission, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, so therapy. Gosh, it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? Let's talk about your expertise. What drove you to wanting to be into therapy, and just share a bit about your background.
Well, initially, I'm a photographer, so I spent over a decade with my photography company.
Multi-talented.
Yes. But you know what? It's funny enough, they are actually quite aligned. It's all about people.
True. Yeah. I never really looked at it like that.
Yeah. So I used to do like nurseries. I had my studio in Croydon. We do bump to babies and weddings, events. So you're there for a lot of moments of people's lives, a lot of special moments of their lives, and watching them kind of grow and through a process. And I noticed that even, especially with the bump to babies in the nurseries, because you work with them for over longer periods of time, that everyone's going through stuff. At the happiest moments, they can still be really struggling. And I think I've always known I wanted to help people, but I don't know exactly how.
Yeah.
So once I built my business to the point that I didn't really have to do much with it, I wasn't really shooting, I started to retrain.
Right, yeah.
And then, once I qualified, I set up WithSelf Therapy to help people. Also because it shouldn't be a privilege.
I love that you say that, because it should be affordable and accessible to all, right?
Yeah, it's a fundamental right to have good mental health and access to the support of it. Absolutely. So when I noticed that it wasn't around, I thought, well, might as well change that.
There you go. Kick down another door. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So that's one big part that's quite important to me of my wellness centre, where we're able to provide long-term low-cost therapy. Right, and also because I didn't see anyone that looks like me. It's a predominantly white industry and it used to be predominantly white male. But over the years it's changed. Women are getting in. I see a lot more people of colour in the industry, but it's still it's lovely. And the network of like psychotherapists and therapists, psychologists even that I've met on my journey, who are Black and female, it's amazing. It's amazing. But I feel like we still need more.
we always need more, because representation matters in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Because we all need to be able to, first of all, feel comfortable speaking to the person we're sharing our innermost deep dark secrets to.
Yeah.
You know, someone that's relatable. I think that's really important. So in terms of trauma, I'm really interested from a psychotherapist kind of point of view. How do you define trauma, and what are the common misconceptions that people have that trauma is?
Trauma, the thing is that there's a lot of like opinions. Okay. Let's say that, there's a lot of opinions. That the word trauma came out of something that has a lot of psychological theory and structure to it.
Right,
and then in the scope of sharing, it's now become like a social media thing, and everyone's like looking for their trauma. And to be honest, personally, I'm a believer that everybody has some level of trauma. But the misconception that it is crippling, it always has to be crippling, or it always has to be something that you're gonna carry with you in a negative, and you're gonna be triggered by all the time, is not necessarily the case. Trauma is essentially something that, the way I'd like to explain it is, in our lives, things happen. And a lot that maybe we're not in control of, we don't understand. And sometimes in those moments, because we don't know how to manage it, to understand it, to make peace with it, to heal from it, to actually address the pain, we develop a coping mechanism, which sometimes is pretending it didn't happen. Sometimes
push it down, like
laughter. There's loads of different ways. It just becomes like a memory. But the feeling doesn't go away.
No, I understand. I kind of understand what you mean by that, because I meet a lot of people on my journey, and even just in general, people, like, I think people think I have deep down trauma that is not necessarily there, because when you just said laughter, that made me, like, that triggered something in me, because I laugh at everything, but it's just naturally, it's not like a coping mechanism, it's not.
Well, you know what's funny about laughter, right? This is the thing, because honestly, I think the majority of Black people have the same. Have the same. Like, we laugh after some dark things, and then we go, no, it's not funny, but it is though. And it doesn't necessarily mean because you found a way to cope that it's a bad thing. You're coping with it. It's like, in the moment, I laugh at everything. I laugh. That was one of the things I was worried about when in my training, because I do notice that I used to have like a nervous laughter. And I used to think, oh gosh, like if somebody tells you something and you'd be like, obviously it's trained, and I had to go to therapy for my own nervous laughter. Like, when I'm uncomfortable.
You've had therapy, the therapist is having therapy.
Yeah. All ethical therapists do, because generally, because we need to be aware of our stuff. We need to be aware of our stuff so that you don't end up blurring the boundaries of like ending up advising somebody or leaning them into some what you feel. When it's not your business. They can act in a completely different way.
No, I get that.
But laughter as a coping mechanism in the short term is actually quite healthy, because it gives you a certain level of an endorphin where you can see clearer than the intrusive thoughts of it or the sadness of it. It helps to bring balance, because something terrible might be happening, but it's also, joy and pain go hand in hand.
They do, because I remember a very specific example of when someone said to me, so I had quite a traumatic thing happen to me so my dad had dementia, and we went on holiday to Paris, and he got lost. This very long, I was going to say traumatic experience, but it was a very traumatic experience. But long and short of it is that my mum, myself, and my little niece at the time, she was about 4 years old, because someone had gifted my mum it was her 60th birthday. Someone gave her a trip to Paris. She goes, no, I've got one to Paris by myself. So she bought me a ticket. She bought my niece a ticket. Because they speak a different language. My mum was old school Jamaican.
Yeah.
She don't know. Right? So we went, so my dad, we didn't realise that my dad actually had dementia at the time.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things.
It can come in episodes.
Yeah. We kind of noticed a little bit of.
Then you don't know if it's aged as well sometimes.
Exactly.
So
we didn't know what it was. So anyway, we went to Paris. Long story is, short story is, he got lost. Twice. The second time he got lost, we had to come home. So we left him not knowing where he was. Because, Interpol got involved and all of this. But my point is, like, when I came home, I went to work. I did everything I was doing, just carried on with my life. And someone said to me, well, Denise, what are you doing here? I heard your dad was like, yeah, he's missing. You're at work, you're carrying on like normal. Like, if you hadn't told me, I would have not known. And I think, I don't even know where that comes from, why I do that, but I'm the type of person that I can't dwell on the worst case scenario.
Well, do you remember what you were actually thinking in those moments?
Yeah, I do. I remember thinking, I'm never going to see my dad again. I do, very, very clearly. And I thought, because I'm into true crime, I watch all of this stuff all the time, and I'm like... Snapped and all of that. I'm into all of that. And I'm there thinking, why is this the way my dad's going to go? I'm never going to see him again. We ain't going to be able to bury him. Anything could have happened.
Didn't get to say bye.
Yeah, I remember very vividly, but I was still able to continue about my life. And I did start thinking about my reaction. I was then thinking, am I emotionally deprived or, disconnected, or like, how am I able to do this? How am I still able to show up? How am I still able to go to work and do all this? And I never ever had the answer to it. I feel like now I have.
What do you feel it is?
Now, honestly, God.
Okay.
Honestly. Because every traumatic experience that's happened to me, I'm someone that is considered to be living with a incurable cancer and all of that kind of stuff. And through everything, I never get. There's never a boohoo moment. I'm never rolling around on the floor, and I'm not. And I'm just saying that that's not how I present. And I have an inner peace. So even though, like I said, these traumatic situations happen, I am never in the darkest, deepest. Obviously, I have moments. I'm not saying that it's plain sailing or whatever, but I honestly think it has to be God, because who else is giving me, just carrying me through? I feel like someone else is carrying me through. Well, are you going to analyse me now? Like, what's going to happen? Go on.
No, not at all. Not at all. What I'm hearing is, like, when you say God, and then you could also say inner peace, you're aware that there's something else in control that you can't necessarily see, whether it's within you, whether it's above or whatever. And that is, like, from how I work, and, like, with my belief, it's the self.
Yeah, hence WithSelf Therapy.
With self. So there are loads of logical ways, like, of getting to that point.
Yeah.
But actually being okay with, this is why I like the balance of, like, joy and pain. Because we only know joy because we know pain.
Absolutely. You can't have one without the other.
And we only know pain because we know joy. So if we understand that in both coexist with each other, it's quite hard to stay in the pain, especially when it's unknown. Yeah. So sometimes we rationalize and go, right, okay, if I'm never going to see my dad again, then life goes on.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't want me to be upset about it, or it's not going to change anything. So we continue. If you didn't ever, for example, see your dad again, and you never acknowledged the sadness.
Yeah, because we did find him, obviously.
But if you never did, then, okay, it might create a space of, like, disconnect to yourself, to the self. But generally, it sounds like everyone does things in different ways.
Mm.
Some people really need to feel it.
Mm-hmm. And be in it
and sit in it.
Yeah.
And some people would prefer to, like, of course I'm feeling it, but I can also balance it out with being around certain people that give me joy, being around, doing different things.
So you were just talking, because that sounds like a coping mechanism as well. So what kind of coping mechanisms do you, I'm going to say teach, but share with your clients and how they can get through certain traumas? Is it different for specific types of traumas, or is it the kind of thing that
I don't necessarily teach coping mechanisms.
Okay.
I don't think I think there's a negative connotation towards coping mechanisms sometimes.
Why is that?
Because it's the element of you coping with life, not living.
Hailey comes. I've never been to therapy before. This kind of, okay. Yeah, no, because it makes you think about things in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, but being able to recognize that if you have any coping mechanisms, it's up to you whether you're okay with them. For example, some people, their coping mechanism to get through any stress, it might be, at one point it's healthy if you go to the gym and you exercise, right? That's how I cope with stress. I go to the gym. Mm-hmm. If you're going to the gym 4 times a day to cope with stress, is it still okay?
Mm-hmm. No. That then becomes turned into an obsession and you're trying to block it out rather than deal with the situation.
Yeah. There's everything in balance. Mm-hmm. So coping, we all have ways of coping. Mm-hmm. It's like the same way when you've been running and you have to put your arms up so you can breathe. Yeah. Okay, that's how I cope. I'm not going to walk around like that all the time. Mm-hmm. But, so I don't necessarily teach coping mechanisms at all.
So how do you get people through transitioning from a place of pain to a place where it's not so painful anymore?
Honestly, it's about creating a space where everyone feels comfortable enough to be honest with themselves, not just with me. It's honest with ourselves. And I'm just the person that asks the questions that we might be too fearful of the answers.
So, I mean, we talk about a lot about mindset and how mindset can get you through certain situations. I mean, I personally do think mindset is extremely important in the way that you get through trauma. But how do you shift people's mindset again from, because some people, I always think that like when people are facing traumatic situations, obviously there's some people that are better at naturally getting through, and some people that have to, I guess, learn. I mean, I know you don't like coping mechanisms, but I say learn coping mechanisms, but a lot of it has to
techniques.
Techniques. And so in terms of perspective and building resilience, do you think that there are certain things that you can use to aid that, or is it just something you naturally have?
In terms of a mindset?
Yeah. Because it's out there now,
I would say
mindset coaches.
I think,
you see, that's what I'm talking about.
I think this is the biggest, most important thing is the want for it yourself. Mm-hmm. That has to be there.
Yeah.
And the understanding that even when it hurts, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because any self-development and any change is not easy.
Absolutely not.
So having a tribe, having a community, having support, those are the times that are going to get you through that. That's essentially what therapists are. Even with coaches, that's what we do. We will hold you, help you. And help you to recognize that it's not like the pain, the discomfort of it is actually growth. It's not you falling back into, because we can't actually unlearn anything that we've learned.
No, yeah, exactly.
We can always tap back into it.
Yeah, you just changed your behaviour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We just change our behaviours, and sometimes it can be difficult. Mm-hmm. And changing around the people that have known you the longest. Ooh.
That's really interesting, because I wanted to ask you about support, because I know for me, when going through cancer, like my treatment, I think people were unsure how to support me.
Mm.
And again, because I'm the doer and I'm always the one helping and supporting people. So it was really interesting for me. Like my core people, I think, were kind of knew how to support me, but I also think there were others that were kind of unsure. What advice would you give the support network on how to show up for someone that's going through something, some challenging things? And also, I would like to know from you, if you think you saw someone going through trauma and they didn't recognize it, how would you also approach that as the person, as a supportive person?
I think as humans, we just need to ask more questions. Because, say, for example, people didn't know how to support you. Did you know what kind of support you needed?
No.
You didn't?
No. It depends. To be fair, it depended on the day. Because every day was different.
And probably the person too, right?
Yeah. Because I would have some friends that would be on the phone crying to me. And then I would have others be like, yo, D, do you need blood? Do you need organ? Like, what can I do? Do you understand? Like, the different people showed up differently.
Yeah.
But I must admit that I have heard, especially, again, within the community that I work with a lot, you hear people talk about they lost friends or they lost people because either one, they're no longer the same person and their people cannot handle the person they were, or they clearly just didn't know how to support you at the time. And I must admit that I didn't have that experience. And I feel I didn't have that experience because I did inventory of my life before I even had, you know what I'm saying? I did inventory of my life before the cancer even came.
Yeah.
Like, certain people that were in my life before are no longer there because I chose for that to happen.
You'd already done that.
Yeah, I'd already done that. So the people that were there for me during cancer are the same people that were there, you know, before I even got a diagnosis, you know? Yeah. So it wasn't, I didn't lose anyone, but I'm interested to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think generally, in terms of like support, if you know what kind of support you need, then you know who to lean to on the days that you're feeling what you need. If you don't know how to support somebody and you want to, ask them.
Yeah.
Ask them. And they might say, I don't know. And then you ask them, what do you need from me today?
Yeah, I think that's
who can I be for you today? Do you need support? Do you need laughter?
Do you need someone to cry?
Yeah. Do you want to go out? Do you want to stay in?
No, I like that. I think that's really helpful to people because, again, I think people just are unsure.
And I feel like that moves across the board as well. I think one of the biggest lies that we've ever been told is that mental health and physical health are separate. So a lot of people, if you have a diagnosis like cancer, all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, this is life-threatening. Like, I've got to do something. But when somebody's struggling with their mental health, because of the lack of understanding around it sometimes, or because of the behaviours that come out from it, a lot of people have less tolerance or less compassion, and it can bring a shame. So if somebody's struggling with their mental health and they've shared it with you, a lot of people, sometimes they distance themselves because they don't want to bring it up. Do you see what I mean? They don't want to bring it up. And I'm sure you probably had some people that were like, I'm just going to carry on as normal. And if you mention it, then I'll speak about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
do you not think that's a good way, or
it works for a lot of people?
You can't. I feel like you potentially set boundaries in that way.
But this is the thing, that everyone's different.
Yeah.
So if we just asked what everyone needs,
basically that's what you're saying. Because you just say this is the way that I can hear. Ask questions. Ask more questions, people.
Ask more questions. Yeah, generally.
Yeah.
Because we can't assume that everyone needs the same thing. And if you ask somebody a question, it gets them to actually take control of their experience.
No, yeah. I get that.
So then you know how you can contribute it to it or not.
See, you use the word that we speak about a lot, shame and guilt, and it brings up a lot of emotions for people. How do you feel like people should be able to navigate that kind of thing? mental health you should not have shame attached. Especially, you know what I find people, and again, things are changing and the landscape of things is changing. But men's mental health, I think, is a massive. Do you see a difference in the amount of men coming to you, as you know, in terms of the change? Do you have less men come to you and now more, or do you get a mixture of both, or are you finding men more ready to open up?
Well, anyone that's going to come to one-to-one therapy is ready. That's a lie. Some people come with different agendas, but they're not the ones that stay for the journey.
Right.
But there's a lot of men. Like, I do support quite a lot of men. I feel like,
and they're comfortable talking to a woman.
I think a lot, if they've chosen to come to me, then they prefer to speak to a woman. You know, everyone's got their. You know, the thing is that we are all kind of raised by women in some way.
Well, so if someone's present, okay.
If someone's present, or even then, it kind of goes up the hierarchy of women like a lot of the time. So I think a lot of people, when they think of a safe space, they lean towards women, and then when they want to challenge themselves. They might prefer, you know, or when they want to, they realize there's something that they want to nurture. But yeah, I have got a lot. I feel like there's still not enough for men. I think resources. No, there's not enough resources. In community wise as well. There's so many things for women. You see them all over, like even the Facebook groups and that. Even
the mothers of babies, or
you've got all of that for women, and there aren't many for men. That's why the men's suicide rate is so high, because where is their community to be okay? We're talking about the stresses of life and the balances of, okay, I'm the protector, I'm the provider, but in the climate that we're in now, they can't do all that on their own. The majority of them can't do that on their own.
So how do you see things changing? How do you think that we can support our men? What types of things should be for them?
What am I going to say?
Ask more. Ask them. Do research and ask them what they want. Okay, Hailey, I see where we're going with this.
I'm joking. No, but for real though, I think giving men a healthy space to actually, one, relax into their own minds, help them to recognize it's okay to be vulnerable, ask them questions that even if they don't have the answer to, you're helping them to actually think about how they're feeling, not just thinking from the head.
No, but I hear that, but how do you initially start? Because a lot of men, even to just get them to do self-examinations is a hard thing, and it usually takes a woman. It usually takes a woman to keep prodding them, but it will take another man to say, "Brother, no, I went to the doctor the other day." Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. How do you initially?
This is why all we can do is keep asking them questions from our point of view. We can't. It takes a village for everyone, but I do feel like that's one thing that my husband's literally creating at the moment is a men's group, because there needs to be more of them. So any men that are watching here, welcome. Any men that are watching here, create a group round the corner. Even if you lot just sit down on a Thursday night for an hour and a half talking to each other about how your week went. Create a group.
You heard her.
Necessary.
You heard her. You heard the professional. So when people, the aftermath of going through something specific, traumatic. So, for instance, you've had this traumatic experience, and to most people, it's finished. I'll give you an example. So your cancer treatment's finished. You're all right now, yeah? Normally, no. First of all, no. The treatment may have finished.
Then you've got to heal from the treatment.
Heal physically from the treatment, but heal mentally from the treatment. Heal from what you've been through, the experience, but also, I can tell you firsthand, again, I can talk about traumas I've been through, but, whenever you hear the word cancer, that word's going to live with you for your entire life, regardless of whether you're considered to be in remission, whether you're considered to be healed, whatever it is that you say, that lives with you forever. I'm telling you. Ask any person who has been through cancer. They will tell you that regardless of your stage, it lives with you, right? So it can always be, something can always trigger you. What would your techniques or advice be to dealing with the aftermath of that and having self-compassion?
This is the thing. If you can really look at how we speak to ourselves, that is one of the core things about being able to have any kind of peace. How we speak to ourselves. Like, even if you think, like I always think about when we were growing up.
Yeah.
From when I was growing up as teenagers, I don't know, when everything became the opposite. Like, oh, that's sick. Oh, that's bad. For things that are good and great. And then it turns to like, fuck my life. Like, do you know what I mean? And you just think the way that we're talking, although it might become common language, it's unkind.
Yes. It's very important how you speak to yourself.
Yeah.
I tell myself that all the time. Continue. Go on.
Yeah. But you know, if you think about the phrase, kill me now. How and why?
Yeah. Why do you say that? Where did that even come from?
Exactly. But our words have so much power. Yes. So it will be that it can create this inner critic that will always say to you, it's coming back. If you can't let it go. If you can't look at it as, well, my time is my time. I survived it once.
Yeah.
But because those things that keep coming back to our mind, that's what it's harder to get rid of. And sometimes we go, oh, it's fine. But it's always going to be there until we shine a light on it and go, well, what would it mean?
What mean?
What would it mean?
If what?
If it came back, what does it mean?
Right, okay.
What does the word mean?
Whatever the trauma thing is, what does it mean?
Yeah. What does it mean? Especially if you've survived it already. The one thing that we do all know is death.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing we know.
Yes.
Is death. And sometimes when we can actually make peace with it, even though it's the unknown of it. It's the unknown of it. How is it going to happen? Where's it going to happen? Yeah. But understanding that it doesn't mean that it's going to happen every day, then it also gives us the space to just, I'm here for the ride.
Yeah, no.
We can move.
I hear that because I adopt that. And like I said, I mentioned God earlier. Like I'm a child of God and I will say that loud and proud. So when you are a child of God, for most, you are at peace because you know there's eternal life, you know? But everybody wants to fulfill as much as they can in this life and certain things. But like you said, you have to then become at peace with knowing that, okay, I'm eventually gonna die at one point, but I'm living in the present. How about we live life now, whatever happens in the future? Because I think that's what people do though. I think looking too far ahead can sometimes also be a little bit detrimental. Like, why are you looking so far ahead? Let's listen to your life now.
Or too far in the past. You can dip there.
Yeah.
You can go, what's over there? Okay. Maybe. What's back there? Okay, maybe. But right now. And you know, when you said, you know, that people want to achieve like the most right now in this life, a lot of unhappiness comes from people not realizing that possibly the things that they want are not their own idea.
Elaborate.
Well, even like as children, there's a lot that we decide about ourselves, like in the world and what the world is.
Yeah, based upon what you see.
Yeah,
or
what we're around or what we're told, and that becomes an idea. So we could get into our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Like one of my oldest clients is 77.
Yeah.
You can have this life that was never a part of your plan. It could have been society's plan, your parents' plan, but it was something that you decided at some point and continued to do it.
Yeah.
not really knowing what that was attached to. And sometimes it is about external validation. That's why a lot of people could work. You could work so hard and become a millionaire, and you're sitting there unhappy.
Well, this is it. You see so many stars, and you think that they live these happy lives. They're killing themselves for whatever reason. Because at the end of the day, no, I don't believe money doesn't bring happiness. Yeah, it can make life a little bit easier. But if you have dealt with traumatic things, or no amount of money is going to save you from that.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you're doing it for outside praise, human beings change like the wind, like depending on what we like at the time. And everybody were also quite easily distracted in the nicest way possible. We're easily distracted. So what everyone's going to like about you is always going to evolve.
Yes.
Do you like you?
Yes, because you have to live with you.
And you're the only one that really has to. Nobody else has to. Even you could have children, they can get away. Your parents are going to leave you at some point. We are all alone. We have to live with ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I realised that more going through what I went through. Because regardless of the amount of people that were around me and in my life, ultimately,
you were going through
I was going through it. Okay, go. What was you about to say?
No, I was going to say it's very similar to like that feeling that I think a lot of people would be able to relate to is COVID.
Yeah.
COVID was the best times and the worst times of many people's lives. We all went through it together, but we all were very alone with our situations throughout quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
And if there is anything for anyone to be able to relate to how your mental health feels, use COVID as the experiment.
No, I get that. So I think before in closing, what would you really like people to understand about therapy? I know you're really passionate about advocating that it should be for all. What would your final thoughts to be of people considering therapy? Or
I would say, honestly, I think one-to-one therapy, it might not be your time to be ready. It might not be anybody's thing forever. I wouldn't say it's. I personally think it can help everyone.
Yeah.
But it also depends on who you click with.
Yes.
And you need to find the right therapist for you. But I would generally say therapy doesn't have to look like sitting on a couch talking to people. Do you know what I mean? Lying about. That's what I'm going to do that. But
you don't have a couch? Like, how comfortable is your couch?
I do. Mine's quite comfortable, but you don't have to be lying down on it. It is very comfortable. I've got it sensory and everything. But generally, therapy, I would just say in terms of focusing on your self-development, everyone can create their own therapeutic program. You focus on your diet. Your diet is what you listen to.
It's everything you take in.
Yeah, what you listen to, what you watch, who you listen to.
100% agree, Mike.
And what rooms you put yourself in, including what you put in your body.
Yes.
That's the physical part of it. Yeah. But generally, if you actually trust that part of yourself, and people talk about anxiety, but we all have a level of anxiety, and it's actually just there to protect you.
Yeah.
So if you are anxious, you need to think about why, because who's in that room? What is it? Yeah. What is it that you are fearful of, so that you can filter through and figure out, is this actually a safe space for me to be, and how is it contributing to how I view myself? Communities where you feel comfortable, you can be yourself. Yeah, nature where you can connect to. Do you understand? There's so many different ways that we can build our own therapeutic program, and I feel that that's something that everyone should more look at with therapy. Is if you need support and you want one-on-one, call a therapist. But getting into a community or an organization, So yeah, as somebody that you respect and you actually believe cares, then
That's it.
you're already on your journey.
I think that's key. That's okay. Well, thank you, Hailey. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
okay. Thanks for having me.
I have one more question before you go. It's not really a question. Well, it is a question. So I am very much like music is in my DNA, and I'm asking all of my guests this. If you were to describe your life in 3 songs, what would they be? I am making the Pressure to Passion playlist, and I want people to be able to click on this playlist.
You could have asked me this before.
No, I don't want to prep you for it. I just want... I don't want to prep you for it.
Okay, Lauryn Hill, that thing.
Right? Shall I ask you why?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of all my funky house tunes. They're all just running.
All right.
Any one of them.
Any funky house tune. Okay.
Any one of them.
One more. Because you're gonna have to tell me a tune after, so I can actually put it on the playlist.
Oh.
You don't have to do it now.
Great.
Give it to me after.
Yes.
Okay. Tell the people where they can find you, Hailey.
Oh, I am on, well, you can find me at www.withselftherapy.co.uk. I'm on Insta on withself_therapy and YouTube on withself_UK. And remember, guys, you're worthy of wellness and it all starts with self.
Yes! Thank you so much for listening and tuning in to this episode of the Pressure to Passion podcast. Again, I've been your host, Miss D. May. Don't forget to do all the good things, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. So until next time, God bless, take care.